Welcome back to Am I the Asshole Reddit Stories. We're here to read stories and judge whether people are assholes or not. Because that's what we're all about here, being incredibly judgmental. Because that's what this Reddit is all about, or that's what this particular Reddit is all about. Yes, that's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant to say. Yes, quite indeed, yes. Coming off as being so much better than everybody else. Yes, quite indeed, yes. Anyways, now that that's out of the way. I'm such a goober. I can't even take myself seriously sometimes. It's wild. Anyways, am I the asshole for wanting to cook meat in my own house while my vegetarian mother-in-law is staying with us? Ooh. My mother-in-law is staying with us for 4 months because I recently had a baby and she came to help out during my recovery. I'm grateful for that, and she's been very supportive of having and it's been very supportive having her here. I don't have anyone else I can depend on. I'm cheap enough not to pay for childcare, and I had to go back to work. She cooks, cleans, and takes care of the baby while my husband and I are at work. She's a strict vegetarian and doesn't eat anything other than vegetarian food. Makes sense. I mean, like, everybody has their own preferences, right? The issue is that I love eating meat. Sorry, I don't know why I laughed at that. That's such a weird thing to laugh at. The issue is that I love eating meat, and especially while recovering from childbirth, I want to be able to eat the foods I enjoy. My husband, however, has decided that out of respect for his mom, I can't cook meat anywhere inside our house. He also doesn't want me eating meat from our regular plates and expects me to use disposables and paper plates. Recently, our dog got sick, so I bought an Instant Pot. I ended up making chicken and rice in it inside the house. My husband was extremely upset about it and told me that I shouldn't even be cooking chicken inside the house. Ooh. I told my mother-in-law that I really don't understand this distinction because she eats at restaurants, and restaurants obviously don't have separate kitchens and appliances for vegetarian and non-vegetarian food. This turned into a much bigger argument with my husband. Now my mother-in-law has also said that she has plans to stay with us for around 3 months every year going forward to spend time with her grandchildren, which I love. However, I'm starting to feel like a guest in my own home. This is a house that has my husband and I own. Oh, this is a house that my husband and I own, and I paid 50% of it. I don't mind accommodating her dietary choices, and I am completely fine with her food being prepared separately, using separate utensils if that's important to her, or making sure her food doesn't come into contact with meat. But after being told I can't cook or eat meat anywhere inside my own home, and that I have to use paper plates to eat it, it feels completely different. Am I the asshole for thinking my husband is taking his mom's dietary preferences too far and wanting to be able to cook and eat meat in my own house? I don't think you're the asshole for that. I understand that your mother-in-law is like visiting to help be supportive and like help take care of the kids. But ultimately, she is the guest in your house, and quite frankly, especially after like things like childbirth and stuff like that, if you're having cravings for specific foods, it's because your body is typically deficient in nutrients that those foods would typically offer. And especially after having gone through childbirth, you should be able to eat whatever the hell you want, as long as it's not affecting your kid. Not the asshole for sure. It's your house. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The 3 months a year part would worry me way more than the vegetarian thing. Accommodating someone's diet is a thing, but basically giving them veto power over what you can cook in your own home is another. Like, seriously. I also understand like wanting to be accommodating towards like making sure that, you know, meat doesn't come into contact with the veggies that you're cooking, so on and so forth. Like, I feel like that's fair, but straight up saying, no, you can't cook chicken in your own house is very silly and very, like, anal. Not the asshole, your husband and mother-in-law are crazy for that. Why isn't your mother-in-law eating off the paper plates? Yeah, like seriously, it's... Yeah. It's also, I really don't like the husband-in-law also making decisions without talking to his wife first. Is not super great. At the end of the day, if it's a preference and not an allergy, then cross-contamination isn't that big of an issue. Yeah, but there are also some people who are like really against eating meat and really against eating animals, and I get that. Not wanting your food to come into contact with like another meat dish that's being cooked, like I totally get that. Having to use completely separate utensils and completely separate like dishes is absurd. It's just silly. I'm a strict vegetarian myself, and I'll say that if she doesn't like that you cook meat in your own home, she can stay elsewhere. She's a guest. And I would stop trying to logic your way out of it, like the discussion about restaurants, and just let her know it's your home and she's free to stay as it is or leave. Yes, that 100%. This one's a pretty easy verdict for me. This one's definitely not the asshole, and it seems the other comments in the comment section absolutely agree. Yeah, like it's... You shouldn't be having to bend yourself over backwards for a guest's dietary habits. That's just very weird. Am I the asshole for not telling my girlfriend's parents that I speak their language for almost 3 years because they didn't ask? That kind of sounds funny. My parents... Off to a great start. My girlfriend's parents speak Russian. I also speak Russian. Nothing about me would hint at that. My great-grandpa picked it up as a prisoner of war, gave it to his children, and so did they. I took a Russian course ages ago to make the most out of my random rudimentary Russian and just kept listening and watching Russian content now and then and kept it at what I would say is a decent conversational level. My English is much better, and my French and Italian are better as well. Therefore, never any reason to show that off. Never thought much of it. Met my girlfriend and she has Russian roots, but doesn't speak Russian. It never was a topic. Her parents are native Russian speakers, but also speak perfect German, which is my language. You couldn't tell they weren't born there. Those two do, however, have some short comments, back and forth in Russian sometimes. Nothing delicate, nothing the rest of us wouldn't be allowed to hear. We always speak German and it's no issue for anyone. Their upbringing is almost never a topic apart from some funny anecdotes here and there about life back as a kid and such. Nothing deep. The other day, a family friend of them, also Russian, came by. Nice evening as always. As older generations sometimes do, they are mocking my generation in a light-hearted, banter-joking kind of way. The friend at some point said something about how much tougher they are compared to us, in an equally joking, banter kind of way. 100% that was the tone. I'm certain I didn't overstep by accident. I said, not literally, what would best be described as, well, bitch, I hope you're not scared to put your money where your mouth is, in Russian. Shocked silence. Rough language is normal. They wouldn't be offended over a little bit of banter, promise. Later, my girlfriend said that they were really disturbed that I was fluent in Russian. Wouldn't say that I am, but that's besides the point, and just left them in the dark about it. Thing is, they never asked. It was never a topic. They knew my great-grandpa was a prisoner of war in Siberia. I told them that when it was actually a topic, and they joked about it because some of the mother's family were locked up there at about the same time as well. They were cellmates kind of thing. But the language thing never came up, and I just didn't think much about it. Nothing of gravity ever happened in Russian in the household. Half the family doesn't speak it. We all speak German to each other. I don't see how that matters. I wasn't eavesdropping either. They never shared a secret in Russian while I was there. So I would have said something if that was the case, but it only ever was some random BS. So now they're crossed because apparently I kept a major secret from them. I'm confused because nobody cared about it before, and that wouldn't have changed a thing. We understood each other just fine and still do. My girlfriend is stressed because My girlfriend is stressed because she can see both sides, but also thinks the drama is annoying and pointless. Am I guilty? Edit, my girlfriend always knew that. Okay, so your girlfriend always knew that you spoke Russian. It's just her parents never knew you spoke Russian. Okay, that's kind of silly. That's a very silly thing for people to be upset about. I don't think that's a huge secret. I think it's just like, you know, like 3 different languages on top of Russian. If it never comes up in conversation, then who cares? You guys can each understand each other perfectly fine. And like, if anything, I think it's just kind of it's a shock, but I think it's a good kind of shock because it's like now you have even more interesting things to talk about and you get to kind of poke fun in ways that you couldn't before. I don't know. I think it's fun. It's kind of like how so many people around me know how to speak Spanish and I hardly know anything about Spanish. You know, like sometimes you're the butt of the joke and just hear people talking back and forth about you and you're just like smiling and being a fucking goober, and that's part of the joke. So nah, but after 3 years I get what they found it weird. I don't know. I don't think that. Yeah, it's like nobody asked, nobody said anything. I don't think anybody here is really an asshole. I think it's just a huge surprise. So am I the asshole for banning my friend's kids from our lake house after she dropped them off unsupervised? They almost drowned and lost all my husband's gear. A friend of my husband called to ask him if her kids could go to the house to do some fishing. We expected her to come with them. They were supposed to bring their fishing equipment. She did not stay. She dropped them off and left. Actually, she dropped one of her sons with a friend, a kid that we don't know. The children forgot their equipment and took my husband's rods and fishing gear. On top of that, they also got in the kayak without permission. I don't blame the kids as they're kids. They went to the middle of the lake and flipped the kayak, almost drowned, and lost all my husband's fishing gear. Neighbors rescued them as I was not home or aware of this whole situation. She's now blaming it on the friend of her kid that she knows her son. I called her furious and banned her. The kids, the husband, and the pets from the property and demanded reimbursement. She's acting like I'm being irrational. Am I the asshole? No! You're... Okay. A friend of your husband was incredibly irresponsible, and yeah, no, like I'd be fucking pissed. I think anybody in their right mind would be pissed. So yeah, no, she should absolutely be reimbursing you for effectively her getting your shit lost. And I know like fishing gear can be pretty expensive alongside, you know, almost having your kids die. Like that's so bad. Not the asshole. I bet the boyfriend's parents had no idea he would be unsupervised. Yeah. The kid called his dad and he was like, "Who are you?" It was very uncomfortable. Sometimes something happens, I get sued by someone I don't even know. Yeah, that's weird. It's also like, I grew up in a household where like, you know, parents knew other parents if your kids were friends. So that way if shit happens, you have each other's numbers and nobody gets hurt. But being that irresponsible with your kids is so wild. Not the asshole and sue your friend if she doesn't reimburse you for what the kids destroyed. Yeah. Not the asshole, but report her for child endangerment and go to small claims if she doesn't reimburse you. Yep, that makes sense. Hope he will never see the money, but at least the pending debt will keep the fools away. No, like seriously, it's the kids nearly drowned because of her negligence, and you would have been liable for whatever happened to them on your property because she decided to leave them unsupervised. dollars to donuts, she never even attempted to confirm if anybody at least was home and just assumed somebody would be there. Banning her is the absolute least that you could have done to her for all of this. Yeah. It's so absurd. Like, it's such a breach of trust, too. Not just for yourself, but also, like, for your kids as well. Having that irresponsible of a parent just wanting to dump them onto somebody else is kind of weird to me. So, either way, not the asshole, am I right, guys? This isn't the OP. Nah, not the asshole. That's my determination. Judgment laid. Am I the asshole for not letting my mom's boyfriend use my Nintendo Switch? I feel that. This happened today, and I'm honestly still baffled by how stupid the whole situation became. I'm 13 and my mom is 32. Okay, first off, if you're 13, you actually did a good job writing this out. Good work. And her boyfriend is 37. For some context, I got a Switch for Christmas. It's mine. I don't use it constantly, and sometimes I don't use it for a while, but it's still my personal property. Today, my mom's boyfriend was cleaning the house when he stumbled across my Switch. He started talking about how those kids aren't interested in something until someone else starts using it, and he said he was going to charge my Switch and use it. He didn't ask me if he could use it, he just said he was going to. I told him no, because I didn't want him using my Switch. After I said that he brought up... after I said no, he brought up a fan. The fan is usually given to my mom as a gift by him. He told me that when he wasn't here, the fan would be put in the closet and that I couldn't use it. I told him that that wasn't the same thing. He turned the fan off, and I told him again that the Switch was mine. He replied, and that's my fan. He's saying that he's showing me what I'm doing to him by not letting him use my Switch. I don't think that the situations are equivalent. The Switch belongs to me, and if he wanted to use it without asking me. I said no. The fan was something that he gave to my mom as a gift. My mom is 32 and was there during this, but didn't say anything about the situation. I understand that if the fan belongs to him technically, then he can decide whether I use it. What bothers me is that he seems to be using the fan as a retaliation because I wouldn't let him use my Switch. I mostly like chilling on my mom's bed because of the fan, so it feels pretty petty to me to say that he'll put it away whenever he's not here after I told him no about my Switch. I genuinely don't understand how this became a whole argument. He's 37 and I'm 13. We're fighting over a Nintendo Switch and a fan because I told him no to him using my property. I feel like he's being extremely petty and childish about this, but I also don't know if I'm missing something here. So am I the asshole? No, stand your ground, 13-year-old child. That is amazing. Stand up to your oppressors, please. It sounds like your mother's boyfriend is a bit of a dick sometimes. Especially if like you receive something as a gift, even if you're not consistently using it, it's still up to you whether you allow other people to use it or not. And to be perfectly frank, if that thing is not theirs, then they shouldn't just be taking it and using it without permission. They should be asking, oh, this is cool, who does it belong to? And if they can use it, or if they could just fucking play a game with you, dude. Like, this guy's a bit of a chud, not gonna lie. When I'm like over visiting my cousins and my nieces and nephews, if they have like a console out in the public space, I'll typically ask like, oh, hey, that's cool. Can I play that with you? What games you got? And like, I'll try to start a conversation with them about it and get them talking about the games that they like. And then if there's a game that I like to play, like Mario Kart or Super Smash Bros., I'll ask if they want to play. It's pretty easy. Update, I just tried to talk with my mom, and honestly, I'm disappointed. I asked her why she didn't say anything, and she said, but what would I say? I told her that it's my Switch, and she kept saying that it goes both ways. I said it's mine, so I get to decide who uses it, and she agrees, but then kept saying that he was right, and I shouldn't have just blatantly said no. What? And I told her about how once you give someone a gift, it isn't theirs anymore. And she brought up that she brought my grandma into it and said that it would go the same way if I wanted to sell my Switch. I'd have to go through my grandma and ask, hey, what? And she brought my grandma into it and said that it would go the same way, and that if I wanted to sell my Switch, I'd have to go through my grandma and ask. And I told her once I'd gotten it. It's mine to use. It's mine to use and to do things with. And she said that it wasn't true. And we were just disagreeing with her saying that I was on the wrong side. Effectively, okay, yeah. So like, she's bringing her other family members into it to try and get a skate. That's weird. Not the asshole. Ask your mom to get your brother his own Nintendo. It's his mom's boyfriend. Yeah, he's acting like a sibling. Your mom's boyfriend is too stupid to know how gifts work. He gave your mom a fan. It's not his fan anymore. Yeah, exactly. Once you gift somebody something, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Yeah, it also feels like your mother is very passive when it comes to these arguments and kind of rolls over. It's just like an old dude taking candy from a child. Like, it's so bad. There are two issues here. The main one is that you need to speak to your mom and ask her why she didn't back you up. Your mom 100% should have backed you on that, and there's no reason why she should have just been standing there quietly. As a mom, I'll stand up to anyone if I don't feel they're being fair to my children, including my husbands, my parents, my best friends, anyone. Yeah. They're adults, and like, adults shouldn't come telling a kid to back down from something that's theirs. It's so weird. Yeah, your mom's boyfriend doesn't know how gifts work. He's trying to give you one example. Yeah, no, like, again, it's just like this dude has a fundamental misunderstanding of owning stuff, which is really weird. Yeah, a lot of people are just saying, like, your mom is weird and oddly passive, and I'm kind of concerned. So, verdict, not the asshole. Absolutely not. It's honestly kind of sad that your mom won't back you up on this. I hope you have friends who back you up on this kind of stuff and like validate you. 13-year-old child, don't back down from things that belong to you. Seriously, make sure that your boundaries are respected. As somebody who grew up in a house that did not respect boundaries, or at least I feel like my parents didn't respect my boundaries. So, am I the asshole for telling my son he's the reason why we had to leave his aunt's house? I have 2 kids, 6 female and 10 male. Shit happened and the kid. Okay, my bad. I have 2 kids. Shit happened, and the kids and I needed a place to stay until I could get on my feet. A friend that I haven't seen in years told me about my situation heard about my situation through a mutual friend and offered for us to stay with her family for a while. She's married with 4 kids and is pregnant with a baby. This friend is an absolute angel. 2 of her kids were adopted from the foster system, and I'm not the first friend that she's taken in. Husband is in tech, and my friend is a director at a local private school. They have a big house with a huge playroom and a massive backyard with an entire play structure and a pool. Ooh. Tech husband is working. Damn. Honestly, I'd hope I could get to that kind of level with my family, just like being able to have a big enough space to support people who need support. She had me complete a background check before moving in. We were moved in by the end of the week once that cleared. She moved my daughter into her oldest daughter's room. They became immediate best friends. My son got a small room that was previously used for storage, but had been beautifully decorated for him, and I stayed in their guest room. That's lovely. Now my son can be extremely defiant. I've tried therapy with me, individual therapy, working with behavioral technicians, and everything else you can think of. He's a great kid at school, but once he gets home, everything is a power struggle. There can be lots of arguing, and he can be rough with his sister. My friend talked to me before we moved in about my son. She told me that if she wants to help us, but if the situation starts to become harmful to her kids, she'll have to kick us out. That is fair. That's like a super fair boundary. He did great for a couple of weeks, then he started to test boundaries. He was punished, then he started teasing his sister and his friend's oldest daughter. We were given our only warning. I talked to my son and tried punishment again, and he went back to messing with the girls. I was told that they were willing to keep my daughter until we get settled, but my son and I needed to be out that night. They got us a hotel for a week and then we were on our own. We bounced between hotels and motels for a few weeks, and now we're in a 2-bedroom apartment that almost definitely has mold problems while I'm applying to different income restricted apartments. That's rough. I've been there. I've decided to keep my daughter with them until we're somewhere with a little bit more space and in a slightly better condition. I visit my son a couple times a week and we spend the weekends together. Or I visit without my son a couple times a week and we spend the weekends together. The other day my son was mad at me and said that I did favor his sister because I'm letting her stay at the good house while he has to live here. I was just done with his defiance and told him that the reason she gets to stay there and he doesn't is because his behavior got us kicked out. He chose to ignore us when we talked to him and punished him repeatedly for taking food from the girls, shooting them with Nerf guns, etc. So now he has to deal with the consequences. He's been so upset since then, and I'm wondering if I shouldn't have told him why we had to leave. Local child learns that actions have consequences. A little bit of a rough way to tell him that, but if he's being a little bastard, then yeah, I don't blame you. He needs to know his actions have consequences. If he's constantly testing people, prodding people, pushing people, hurting people, even if it's just hurting their feelings, it's not good. He needs to know that his actions have consequences. Yeah, like the comments say, he needs to know that his actions have consequences. Better learn this now instead of prison later. Honestly, he should have been made acutely aware that if this, then that on his first and every day at that nice place. And perhaps made to write the sentence out a few hundred times when the warning came. Yeah. It also does seem like OP told him pretty explicitly, hey, if you fuck up, we're done. Yeah, he needs to know his actions have consequences. He's going to have to learn this lesson at some point in his life. Personally, I think learning the natural consequences lesson earlier rather than later is a gift. Yes, he's probably very upset, and he may need therapy to deal with the guilt and shame he likely feels about learning about this reality of his youthful inability to control his behavior. But what's the other option? He continues believing and operating as if there aren't natural consequences for his behavior, and then at some point later learns, or maybe doesn't learn about his experience in the criminal justice system. Yeah. Let him feel the guilt and shame. That's an important part of life, and learning that you fucked up, but also being able to learn to be better and move past the things that you've done previously, So, still be there for him, but he needs to know that if he's being a little bastard, then he's being a little bastard. Am I the asshole for voicing my disappointment when I only received gifts for my unborn baby on my 30th birthday? I, a 30-year-old female, recently celebrated my 30th birthday. I'm married to my husband, and I'm currently around 7 months pregnant with our first child. I specifically wanted a low-key birthday this year because I'm pregnant and get tired quickly, so I went out for a steak dinner with my close friends and family. That sounds divine. I'm sure the mother-in-law from the first story would fucking hate that. Most of our friends and family had purchased presents for the 30th. I was very excited to open them, but to my surprise, every single present I received was actually for my unborn baby. I didn't receive one single gift that was actually for me. To be clear, this was not a baby shower or a celebration of the baby. It was my 30th birthday, so I would have expected presents I received would... So I would have expected any presents I received would be specifically for me. Even my own parents and sister bought things for the baby. Yeah. I know that everyone is excited about the baby, and I'm sure that the gifts were given with good intentions, but I'm still so hurt. Turning 30 is a milestone birthday, and I had hoped that my close friends and family would think to buy gifts that were for me. Not as those I expected a lot of things or wanted anything particularly. I just thought I would get perfume, some skincare, or anything that was specifically for me. It honestly makes me feel like I've become nothing more than a vessel for the baby, which I know sounds way too dramatic, but it's how I felt at the time. My husband agrees that it was thoughtless, although he thinks that everyone probably got carried away with the excitement about the baby and didn't realize how it'd make me feel. I ended up calling my mother after dinner and saying how I truly felt. She was very quiet on the phone, but later she sent me a long message about how ungrateful and entitled I am. I wrote back that I felt disappointed because the birthday was my 30th, a milestone birthday that should have focused on me as a person and not turned into a baby shower. My mother completely disagreed and called me ungrateful again. I then received a message from my sister calling me out for having a sour attitude at the party because I was feeling bad about not receiving any gifts specifically for me. I'm grateful for the gifts for my unborn baby, but I wish at least some of them had been for me because it was my birthday. I also reached out to one of my best friends about it, and she immediately apologized and said that she didn't think it through properly. I'm not sure I'll bother reaching out to anyone else, and I don't want to harp the issue, and I know my sister and mother hate me at the moment. I especially know my mother is pretty pissed off with me and is just now refusing to talk with me. At least my husband's on my side. I don't know if it's because he just wants to be supportive because I'm pregnant, or if he really means it. Maybe I am entitled and I just don't see it. Am I the asshole? No, I think you're perfectly valid for that. Like, it would be different if you had gone out and said, like, I want to get things for the baby for my birthday. Like, it'd be wonderful, and I'd appreciate that from everybody. But it's like, especially for a milestone birthday, it kind of goes to show how little people were thinking about you and really cared all that much. Especially coming from your mother. Like, that's a little wild. And I can totally understand and respect, like, the thoughtless behavior and being upset about that. It's so, that's tough. I'm sorry to hear that. Valid feelings. Yeah. I think for your mother's next birthday, you should get her a gift as a grandma. Bath toys and a high chair, and make it easier for her to be a grandma, of course. For your sister, a t-shirt with the word auntie on it. Yeah. Like, you no longer are your own person. You're just a vessel for the other people in your life. Yeah. Like, no, absolutely not the asshole. That's my verdict on this. And, like, I hope... I'm glad your friend immediately apologized, because that's so tough. like, for me, for my 20th birthday, not 20th, when did I get? Somewhere around there, like my 20th birthday, my birthday present was my mom having a yard sale, selling all my shit, and then kicking me out of the house. So, like, I totally understand feeling like you're not being treated like a person and not being respected when it comes to a milestone birthday. That's super rough. I'm sorry you had to go through that situation alone kind of ruined birthdays for me for a good few years until Avi helped pull me back out of that muck. Am I the asshole for telling my daughter that she has to track down her own school responsibilities? Am I the asshole? My daughter and mother aren't ganging up on me. I'm a single mom to an 18-year-old daughter who is a high school senior. Her father is not involved in her day-to-day life or school responsibilities, and those have fallen entirely on me. My daughter and I both struggle with executive function tasks. Okay. Today, the school was taking photos of seniors walking across the stage, but neither of us realized it. This was not her senior portrait, and we don't even know what the photo. We don't even know whether the photo will appear in her yearbook. Still, she refused to go to school on time and instead spent the morning showering and blow-drying her hair for it. She then couldn't find her plaid uniform skirt and blamed me for not knowing she needed one. Indignant, she says, all the other mothers know where every colored skirt is because they have systems. Meanwhile, she sometimes just leaves pieces of her uniform at her friends' houses. Ooh. I recognize that I've dropped the ball more lately. Menopause-related Sorry, I'm adjusting stuff on my table. Menopause-related brain fog, the autoimmune condition worsened by stress, and a demanding work project causing serious final pressure, etc., etc. Because stress affects my health, and I've also been trying to become less hypervigilant about managing every single detail of things so she can track herself. It's fair. It's like your daughter has to learn how to be a person. Being a human being is an important skill to have. I feel as though my daughter wants a secretary, not a parent. When I miss something like this, she says she's not being parented and she should not have to parent herself. But when I parent her by insisting that she attend school on time or complete basic chores like feeding her own pets, she doesn't want to be told what to do. My mother was visiting during this argument and heard me tell Dee Dee that going forward she would have to be responsible for tracking her school events. I would still remind her and support her, but the main responsibility would be hers. She'll attend college in another state or country next year, and I have to manage these things. And will have to manage these things herself. My mother, unsolicited opinion, immediately interjected that this is unreasonable. She said that my daughter should enjoy her senior year with her friends instead of tracking calendar issues, and that managing her schedule is my job as a parent. I said that my job is to raise her to become a happy adult. My daughter replied that by always trying to raise a happy adult, I'm raising an unhappy child. My mother completely agreed. They both act like I'm being lazy and want to get out of that responsibility. When they gang up on me, I feel overwhelmed, anxious, and start questioning myself, even though I feel like I'm not wrong. Am I wrong? Am I the asshole? Ooh. ETA. Dee Dee and I both have ADHD and anxiety. We're both heavily medicated. My mother says that the ADHD and anxiety are all the more reason to help her. My feeling is that they are all more reason to teach her. My mother thinks I'm crazy. Yeah, that's super tough. I feel like teaching your child to manage those symptoms is definitely important, as well as like teaching them the responsibility that has to come with. Also, hello, Minty. Hope you are doing well, my friend. I do think that it is important for when you're raising your own kid to let them, be a kid, hang out with friends. But it's also important to teach them responsibility, especially if they're on their last year of high school and about to go into college.